Georgia's passed the controversial law that's believed to restrict freedom of speech and derail its path to EU membership.
Israeli shelling and airstrikes killed at least 37 people, most of them sheltering in tents outside the southern Gaza city of Rafah overnight on Tuesday.
The EU considers reactivating its mission to protect the Rafah border crossing in the Gaza Strip.
Israeli shelling and airstrikes killed at least 37 people outside the southern Gaza city of Rafah overnight and on Tuesday, pummeling the same area where strikes triggered a deadly fire days earlier in a camp for displaced Palestinians, according to witnesses. The White House condemned the loss of life of dozens of civilians as a result of the Israeli airstrike in Rafah, but said it is not planning any policy changes as a result of Israel's actions. The French president said he is totally ready to recognize the Palestinian statehood, but it must be at a useful moment.
Je considère que cette reconnaissance doit arriver à un moment utile, c'est-à-dire à un moment où elle s'inscrit dans un processus où les États de la région et Israël se sont engagés et qui permet, sur la base aussi d'une réforme de l'autorité palestinienne, de produire un résultat utile. Je ne ferai pas une reconnaissance d'émotion, si je puis dire.
Dozens of Palestinian families have fled the southern city of Rafah following the latest strikes.
The EU is considering reactivating its mission to protect the Rafah border crossing in the Gaza Strip. The European Union Border Assistance Mission to the Rafah crossing point was established in 2005 to support the Palestinian Authority in controlling the border in line with international standards. It was suspended when Hamas took power in the Gaza Strip in 2007. Since then, Egypt has controlled the border crossing, but the EU would like to be more present on the ground.
For the time being, one of the major questions that the EU needs to solve before reconsidering and implementing also EU ban is who will be in control over the Gaza Strip Rafah border. Will Egypt, that insists also on the PA returning to the Gaza Strip, have its role to play? Will Israel also allow it, for example, to have people freely leaving the Gaza Strip also in the future after it suspends its military assault? And these questions will very much determine the possibility of EU ban to be active on the ground and to play a positive role.
Reviving the mission will not be easy. One of the main difficulties will be that Israel could prevent it from implementing its mandate. Militant group Hamas and the control it exercises on the Palestinian side is another uncertainty. So, is it the right time to revive the EU ban mission?
I'm not sure that the timing is excellent. Yet, on the other hand, the EU needs to look for more access and a more presence on the ground because it knows that it is very much also a player in the conflict, and it wants to be more of a player. Because, of course, the United States have mainly been the player. And in that sense, it is looking for a constructive role.
Now that EU ministers have given the green light, working groups in Brussels are discussing what exactly needs to be done for the EU ban mission and how.
Norway handed over papers to the Palestinian Prime Minister in the latest step of formally recognising the Palestinian state. The document states that recognition will officially begin from May the 28th of 2024. Last Wednesday, Ireland and Spain pledged along with Norway to recognise the Palestinian state.
Recognition means a lot for us. It's the most important thing that anybody can do for the Palestinian people is to recognize them as independent, worthwhile people in this region that can contribute to its peaceful living for all its children and populations. So it's a great deal for us.
The handover of the papers by the Norwegian Foreign Minister to Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa was made in Brussels, where Mustafa is meeting with high-level EU officials. Portuguese support for Kyiv will amount to €126 million in 2024, announced the country's Prime Minister. The package includes bilateral and multilateral contributions by the European Union and NATO. Portugal also promised to continue training pilots to use F-16 fighter jets. Zelensky said he considers Portugal a sincere friend and partner of Ukraine following the announcement. After visiting Spain and Belgium, Zelensky arrived in Lisbon to sign cooperation agreements. His trip aimed to deepen relations between the two countries, especially regarding security and defence. Zelensky's trip was part of a wider whirlwind tour through the EU, with billions of euro in aid being pledged.
Georgia's parliament has given the final green light to the controversial foreign agent law. The bill requires all organizations receiving at least 20% of their funds from abroad to register as an agent pursuing the interests of a foreign power or face hefty fines. Authorities said the new law is needed to limit alleged foreign attempts to influence domestic politics, but critics say it's going to significantly restrict freedom of speech, on top of sabotaging Georgia's application to become an EU member. Georgia's president is among the critics and vetoed the bill, saying it mirrors Kremlin legislation. But a parliament committee on Monday overrode her move, clearing the way for Tuesday's final approval. Protesters took to the streets for weeks in the attempt to block the bill. Dozens were detained in clashes with the police. More rallies broke out on Tuesday in Tbilisi as demonstrators flocked to parliament ahead of the bill's approval.
A former spy chief was tipped as the new Prime Minister of the Netherlands. Former head of the Dutch spy agency and counter-terrorism office, Dick Schoof, was tipped to become the nation's new Prime Minister. The 67-year-old will lead a coalition dominated by Geert Wilders' radical right-wing Freedom Party. The coalition is also made up of the centre-right VVD, centrist New Social Contract and the Farmer Citizen Movement.
For the third consecutive year, the Dutch non-profit organization Healthy Seas made a return visit to the Greek island of Ithaca. Their mission was to clean up waters contaminated by deserted fish farms. The island has 2 ghost farms, which have been abandoned for more than a decade. They release debris, plastics, and pollutants into the marine environment. These pollutants disrupt marine ecosystems, endangering flora and fauna.
Ghost farms are abandoned, bankrupted, old aquaculture facilities which keep polluting the area. It's not only a problem for marine life and the environment, but also for the local communities. For tourism and for recreational purposes, the local communities lose the area which are polluted by these ghost farms.
Sea pollution has a major impact on local fishermen who struggle to find fish in the waters around the island. Many fish get trapped in the abandoned farms or leave the area due to pollution.
Κάθε χρόνο τα ψάρια μειώνονται. Κάθε χρόνο με το χρόνο. Και στο βυθό έχει πολλά σκουπίδια. Εδώ θέλουν να βγάλουν όλα.
The cleanup operation lasted 10 days and 2 significant locations were tackled, one near Patras and another in Ithaca. Around 30 tons of nets and waste were collected in Patras, while the number in Ithaca estimated to be higher. Local residents have backed the initiative in both locations, as they have not seen any cleanup efforts by the Greek government.
The local community was in the beginning, and then we are talking about 2021, a little bit skeptical, like they're cleaning up the fish farm for real. Okay, let them go and let's see where it ends. Now all lights were at green. So the Coast Guard, the mayor, everyone, all the locals, everybody's supporting us really well, and that's super nice.
Εκεί που εσείς βλέπετε το απέραντο γαλάζιο, εμείς αντικρίζουμε έναν απέραντο σκουπιδότοπο. Με τη φράση αυτή, οι εθελοντές δίτες περιγράφουν την κατάσταση που επικρατεί στις ελληνικές θάλασσες αλλά και σε κάποιες άλλες περιοχές της Μεσογείου. Γι' αυτό και κάθε χρόνο ομάδες καθαρισμού βγάζουν από τον βυθό εκατοντάδες τόνους απορριμμάτων και δικτυών. Από την Ιθάκη για το Euronews, Απόστολος Στάικος.
Johan Barre, producteur de lait sur le département des Vosges, et donc je suis porte-parole de la FNSEA. Donc si je suis élu eurodéputé, les premières choses que je mettrai en place, c'est vraiment redéfinir un cap pour l'agriculture européenne, pour redonner envie aux producteurs de produire et surtout que la souveraineté européenne soit assurée au niveau de l'alimentation. Donc je m'explique, aujourd'hui on importe énormément de poulets sur le continent européen, et comment on fait pour mettre en place des bonnes conditions pour que les producteurs aient envie d'en produire et surtout que les consommateurs aient confiance en ce qu'ils consomment par rapport à des standards européens, français en particularité. Et je voudrais aussi rappeler qu'on a besoin de produire de la protéine sur le continent européen. Donc tout ça pour assurer la production laitière, mais autre aussi, quand on produit des porcs, on a besoin de protéines. Et malheureusement en Europe, pour l'instant, on n'y est pas, le compte n'y est pas. Il nous faut vraiment un cap meilleur pour l'agriculture européenne de demain.
Jestem z Lubelszczyzny, regionu przywojennego, regionu graniczącego z Ukrainą. Bezpieczeństwo, granic terytorialne, żywnościowe to są priorytety. Do Polski nie może napływać nieznanej jakości zboże z Ukrainy. Musimy wiedzieć, co jemy i co wpuszczamy na teren Unii Europejskiej.